The planets Saturn and Neptune conjoin at 0 degrees in Aries on February 20th. Good day, friends. This is Casey with Aligned Astrology. Today we're talking about the Saturn Neptune conjunction in the sign of Aries, and this conjunction is a once in a lifetime experience for us. We are living history in the making. Now, these two planets, Saturn and Neptune, they come together in conjunction every 35, 36 years. But we won't have the opportunity in this lifetime again to experience a conjunction in the sign of Aries. And this is at 0 degrees in the sign of Aries. So this is at the beginning of the zodiac when we think about Aries as the first sign in the tropical astrological house system. From the standpoint of looking at these two planets in the sign of Aries, the sign of youth, we can see the energy of Saturn taking on the characteristics of the zodiac sign Aries, as well as the planet Neptune. Now, Saturn is the planet that wants to create structure in our lives. Being in the sign of Aries is not the best for the planet. We know that since it's in its fall here. But Saturn is going to ground that energy and create a structure around the actions that we take in our experience. Now, Neptune, the planet of spirituality in this space, is going to bring spirituality to our daily action, our daily workings. So Saturn grounds. Of course, Neptune can dilute or create disillusionment in our experience. So when these two come together, we can think about Saturn creating structure in our lives while Neptune brings spirituality. There's a grounded expression in our experience that's going to show us spirituality for ourselves. A lot of the time we can think of spirituality as a way out of our experience or something that we do outside of our day-to-day life. But when these two planets come together, we'll be able to find the spirituality of our experience. Now, it's important to notice that we are born into these physical bodies and we come from somewhere else. Because when we go to sleep at night, we go somewhere else. Otherwise, how we recall a dream. Now, many scientists can say that it's just the unfoldment of our psyche based off of the impressions we take in on a daily basis. But when we're conscious, as you sit here consciously watching this video, aware of your physical body, your feet on the ground, and the breath moving in and outside of your physical body, you can see that the environment around you right now. So when you go to sleep and you find yourself in a new environment, unusual to the current one that we're in right now, you can begin to notice, if we can recall our dreams, something totally different, something out of this world. So as we live this Saturn Neptune conjunction in the sign of Aries, through our daily workings, through our natural expression and the actions we choose to take in community, in connection with others, we'll gain the opportunity to have spiritual insight through our daily practices, through the daily routines that we create. Now, Saturn, we know, is the planet of structure and order. And once again, Aries is the zodiac sign that likes to go and take action, full of vigor. So as Saturn calls for that energy to slow down in our experience and make proper decisions, the planet Neptune is going to be like our intuition here, guiding us in the proper direction. And we can support this conjunction in our own personal lives by taking those magnetic pauses that I mentioned in our previous videos. If you've been watching, you know that I have created some meditations for us to follow along with, because they're going to be necessary for this experience. If you listen to my Saturn ingress into Aries video, you'll begin to remember that I said Saturn is the planet that is going to take our toys away. It's going to take away the things or the paths that aren't aligning with our experience right now. And Saturn is going to begin to create structure in our lives based on where this sign Aries lands in our whole sign house system. I'm going to do some horoscopes today, and we'll move through all 12 zodiac signs and see where this conjunction lands for us in our experience. But it's important to take into consideration, as always, everything that happens in the sky, the conjunctions, the connections between these planets, the conversations that they have. They are all omens. They don't dictate our lives, but they may cause for energy to transform in our experience, giving us new opportunities, right? So they are always going to be opportunities that come about. Of course, now we just spoke about a solar eclipse recently in the sign of Aquarius, and the eclipses, I like to say, they are fated events, right? So these things are things that must happen, right? Of course, the planets act on our lives because they live. They are the gods of the sky. You know, in Vedic astrology, they're called the Gravas, right? The deities. Just like when we have a full moon, the tides rise, right? They have literal energetic expression on our experience. So it's important to understand what these planets mean and how they express themselves. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here studying astrology, you know? So when these two planets, Saturn and Neptune, come together, it's an opportunity to ground ourselves in a spiritual practice, to begin to reinvent ourselves based off of what's going on in our life, what feels good. Reinventing ourselves for who we thought we were in order to become who we need to be. We're going to pull the shot up shortly, but I also want to speak about the planet Neptune in the sign of Aries as the planet that brings the ideals of a martyr to the forefront. Someone who stands for something and may even take on a belief based off of the experience we're going through. Now, when Saturn and Neptune come together, these things become a structure, you know. These things can become a belief system, something that we can follow, something that we can embody. And this is can be a very positive thing, something that is created for us to live for in our life, and it may just shift the tides of our experience. And it is no coincidence that this conjunction, coming into an exact conjunction on February 20th, has been in close proximity within a 3-degree orbital range and conjoining and connecting for the last couple days. And it's brought in our new lunar new year for the Chinese astrology, right? So it's like a new year. This is setting the groundwork for our entire year. This may be one of the most or the most powerful astrological transits of our year. It's like setting the groundwork and unfolding all the way through May. And after these planets, Neptune and Saturn, begin to separate from one another, at the end of May, we'll also have the planet Uranus moving into Gemini. It's like a catalyst into the next thing, a transition phase into a new experience that 2026 is bringing us. And it's all happening very quickly, right under our nose if we're not aware. There's going to be so many different cosmic transformations that are going to lead to our own personal and collective transformations. Now, with that being said, let's pull up the zodiac chart so we can look at all 12 zodiac signs together and delineate what these planets are going to be showing in our own personal lives. And we'll do that based on our rising signs. Of course, you can listen to your sun sign if that's beneficial for you. You can even listen to your moon sign. Maybe you gain something from it. But the rising sign is going to show us where the planets land in our own particular astrology, as always. So now I'm going to prepare my good old screen brush so we can look at Aries risings who are experiencing this Saturn and Neptune conjunction in the first house. Saturn and Neptune in the first house are going to reinvent the waking life, reinvent the experience that Aries lives, creating a grounded structure of our action, the expression of ourself, by maybe even learning the hard way. But when Saturn comes into the first house, our natural action, our reactive action, tends to work a bit less. With Neptune coming here, our judgment may be slightly clouded, but with Saturn and conjoined to that Neptune, it's going to bring some clarity around the things that we believe and open the doorway or a path to a new way of being, a new sincere expression that we can communicate and connect with people around us with. Once again, as an Aries rising, we are ruled, if we're an Aries rising, ruled by Mars. And Mars is in the sign of Aquarius, in the 11th house of community and good fortune. Now, when we look at the dispositor, which is the one that rules over the current conjunction we're speaking of, that Mars, the planet of action in the house of community, in the sign of Aquarius, the sign of community, we can see that maybe there's a community that we're connecting with that is opening our eyes to maybe a belief system, a way of being that has potential to dramatically transform ourselves over these next 2.5 years as Saturn moves through the first house. We're creating a grounded structure for ourselves. We're landing in a place where we can take action consistently and in an orderly fashion. Now, this may be something new to us because we take action very instinctively as Aries rising, and Neptune here, helping us to see our lives as the spiritual path, because that's the truth of the nature. Why else will we be born into this experience if it was not a part of our spiritual nature? Saturn is bringing that grounded structure, and Neptune is tying in the spirituality. Taurus rising, you're experiencing this Saturn Neptune conjunction in the 12th house. The 12th house is the things that we don't see about ourselves. It can be a hidden enemy. It can be a challenge in our experience that we're being faced with here. It could be a belief system that we're coming to terms with, that we're beginning to understand in our own lives. Now, Saturn in the 12th house is in its planetary joy, so it benefits greatly in this space. That doesn't necessarily mean things are going to be easy, but whatever challenges or opportunities come into our life, these experiences are going to unfold and leave us with some sort of positive treasure. We know we can say the terminology, or we can say the phrase, that pressure produces diamonds. And in this case, with Saturn in the 12th house, it will definitely produce a diamond, regardless of what challenges we may have to go through in order to see ourselves come out on the other side. The planet Mars in the 10th house can show that maybe there's something we're doing differently in our career that's going to play a role in how the Saturn-Neptune conjunction plays a part in our daily life, or in a way that we have yet to even become conscious of. This is something that's unfolding behind the scenes for us, and it may be closely tied into our spirituality, our connection to that. What are we bringing into a grounded structure to stand on for the world to see us as? Our Geminis experience the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the 11th house of community, of good fortune. This planet Saturn here in the 11th house can show that maybe we are taking action and entering into a community where we are the leader of the structure. We are setting the groundwork, the foundation to be a part of something that's bigger than ourselves. the Neptune here is allowing us to maybe see these things in a different way, different than what reality really is. And in order for us to become mindful of that, we're going to need to slow down as we maybe cultivate this experience, become part of this community, or even to develop this community. We'll have to take our time and take it step by step and be mindful of who we're engaging with, mindful of who we're connecting with. So that way, when the time comes for this thing to grow, we have to see within ourselves that this is the place that we are supposed to be. Now, that planet Neptune can be seen as intuition, so we need to be listening to the deepest parts of ourselves to see that we're making the right decisions, we're connecting with the right people, and establishing this group or these connections that are closely connected to what we believe or what we've been learning. With Mars in the ninth house, it can be correlated to long distance travel or even people coming from faraway places to come connect and be with us, or a teacher or guru giving us guidance to help us to create this new community or mesh with the group of people that is connecting with us, that is coming into our experience. As a Gemini rising, it's important to see for ourselves that whatever may be going on right now, we're going to be seen for these things. So we have to be aware that whatever it is, we must be comfortable being seen in this way. Cancer risings experiencing this Saturn Neptune conjunction in the 10th house of career, how the world sees us and what the world sees us for. Saturn slowing ourselves down in career, helping us to make the proper decisions, hopefully. Once again, like I said, we can make all the decisions we want. We can still operate in our public role in a very Aries fashion, but maybe it works less this time. With the planet Neptune in that close conjunction, it will allow us to find the spirituality in our public role, find the spirituality in our career, and make it into something, make it into a career, add it to our career. With the planet Mars moving through the 8th house of the esteem of others or karma, our karmic debts, it's an opportunity for us to reveal a part of ourselves to the world in order to receive from them as a community, as a people who receives us as our full selves. Now, this conjunction between Saturn and Neptune in the 10th is in a place that is meant to be seen. It's in a place that is meant to be authentic, because as Aries gets along by being its true, genuine self. So the question for Cancer risings here is, how can I express myself naturally in order to gain the connection to the public world? Of course, it becomes very natural for Cancer to feel good at home, but sometimes Cancer puts on that shell when it's time to go out into the public. So maybe this Saturn and Neptune conjunction creates that internal space to allow the external to be present, to be seen in truth. Leo rising experience Saturn Neptune in the 9th house. Once again, maybe there's a new belief system coming into play, or a new teacher that changes the tides of our experience, that opens the door for us to see the world in a different way and connect with all our one-on-one relationships in a way that seems more true to us, feels more free to us. Of course, there's a little bit of structure, because with freedom there must be discipline. There cannot be freedom without the discipline. So the structure of Saturn coming into Aries, helping us to ground all the things that we've learned, even the spiritual practices that we've been incorporating, helping us to make them a daily routine or make them a part of our lives in order to gain truly from them, to extract the wisdom from these processes that we've been cultivating and adding into our experience. That's that Saturn in the ninth house, it can be like our great teacher, our guru here, that maybe gives us the hard lessons. With Mars in the seventh house, Mars, or let's say the seventh house, is also considered a place of endings as well. So maybe there is something we're letting go of, an old way of being, old self-expression, in order to enter into a new way of being and share ourselves based off this, maybe this new belief system or some form of learning that we've achieved, in order to share and represent ourselves in a different way. Virgos will experience this Saturn Neptune conjunction in the eighth house. It can be our house of karma or the esteem of others, how our relationships see us. Usually, as Virgo risings, you're the one who holds yourself to the highest standard here. So it's important to allow that to be released in this case, and see your eyes, or see yourself through the eyes of your mirror, the people that you work with, the people you connect with. It could be your relationship partner. When we begin to understand ourselves through them is when we gain a greater insight of who we really are, because perfection a lot of the time is the goal, and perfection is impossible. We can shoot for the stars, but that doesn't mean we will ever reach. Maybe we do, but as Virgo doesn't see it that way. Can be the best one in the room, the best one in the world, but still will have work to do. So Saturn in the eighth house of karma is structuring this for ourselves, helping us to understand the work that we do is not going to be perfect. There's going to be a learning curve. Just like Aries is the trailblazer, there's going to be something new that we get to experience and move forward in. There's going to be something, when Saturn comes into conjunction with Neptune, there's going to be something new for us to believe, for us to embody, for us to express as ourselves. And maybe this is what leads us down a new spiritual path. And once again, I said it during the talk at the beginning of the video, this life path that we live, our own physical life that only we can live, nobody else lives it for us, is the path to our spirituality. So Neptune coming into the conjunction with Saturn, however you want to say it, Saturn coming into conjunction with Neptune, is giving us the opportunity to firsthand experience spirituality. So as Virgo risings, notice how your day-to-day efforts can be a form of spirituality. Libra risings have this Saturn Neptune conjunction in the seventh house of one-on-one relationships. When these two planets come together, of course, structure and spirituality in the house of one-on-one relationships, it screams that our mirror is the path to our spiritual nature. It makes total sense, right? A lot of the times, based off our trauma, based off our karma, based off of our psychological state, we end up in a relationship with somebody who is going to help us to see ourselves. That's how it works. We can go see any doctor, any therapist, psychologist, and they'll tell you very similar things. We attract what causes us to be triggered. We attract what we're attracted to, and those things are psychological factors. So when Saturn is in this place of the seventh house, it can give us the insight to see that as we move through our relationship, maybe it's becoming deeper, maybe we're learning more about ourselves, maybe it's time for us to create a structure in this experience. Of course, with Saturn in the sign of Aries, it's in a fallen state. It's in a very challenging state. But relationships are our greatest teachers. Iron sharpens iron. When we face the fire and the trials and tribulations, we gain opportunity to overcome, to learn, to better ourselves. And when Neptune, the planet of spirituality, comes into place, conjoining that Saturn, it's an opportunity for us to experience the divine through our one-on-one connection. So I ask, what can we learn, Libra rising, from our relationships? How can our partner be the greatest light in our experience as this one unfolds? Scorpio, as my fellow Scorpio risings, we are experiencing this Saturn Neptune conjunction in the 6th house. Now here, the 6th house is our day-to-day work. It is our routines. It is our service to others. In my own experience, this has been showing up like many things to do, many things to organize, many things added onto the plate. And the structure of Saturn is coming up to say, it's time to organize. We can't just operate instinctually. We can't just do, and do, or else we will do until we burn out. So this opportunity here with both Saturn and Neptune conjoining one another is going to show us how to use our intuition to feel what comes first, what's priority, to feel what must be let go of, and even to feel what must come together. What things can we do that can be merged, that can connect and work hand in hand? And most importantly, how can we be of service as we do these things? In my own personal experience as a practicing astrologer, this takes up time. As a yoga instructor, it takes up time. As a person who is planning to become a financial advisor, that takes up time. So things have to change. Things have to go. Something has to take precedence. So with the planet Mars in the 4th house in Aquarius, it's giving us the opportunity to go into that place of solitude, the place where we pull from the deep parts of the consciousness to feel what direction is most important. Where can I be of greatest service? And then act in that way. Sagittarius, Saturn Neptune conjunction in the 5th house of creativity. And this is the ideals that we can cultivate here. A belief system can open the door for our new creative expression. It can transform our way of seeing the world, our way of providing for the world, our way of showing up in the world and in our experience. Saturn structuring our creative endeavors in this place, and Neptune providing that innate knowing in this experience, giving us all the things, the tools that we need, the faith, the belief in ourselves that we need to push this thing forward that we're being a part of. Now, when these two planets come together, we can think about religion, we can think about spiritual fanaticism, we think about these things overpowering our life and experience. But it's also important to notice there's beauty that comes from this. There's spiritual discipline that comes from this. There are opportunities for creative endeavors to become our main focus, to shift the tides of our life and experience. Now with the planet Mars, the dispositor of this Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the 3rd house of day-to-day workings, day-to-day experiences, this is giving us the opportunity to transform our daily life and the people that we connect with. Maybe all these things are tying hand in hand. Maybe the people in our lives are providing us with ideas that spark our creativity, that allow us to go back to the drawing board, to take those moments for ourselves, finding that magnetic pause that opens the door to our intuition, to the flow of our creativity, that provides us with something that we didn't know was there, and we create. Capricorn, Saturn, Neptune in the fourth, of foundation, of home and family. We are tending to our family life. We are creating structure in this place, the place of solitude. We maybe have a detailed spiritual practice that we are hunkering down and that we're settling into. And finally, it's beginning to grow results. It's beginning to show itself. As we are ruled as Capricorn rising by this Saturn in the fourth, it can show that maybe it's time to focus on home if we haven't been focusing on it. Maybe it's time to learn the hard lessons. With Neptune here, maybe it's time to see beyond the veil of what we believed our home life to be. With the planet Mars in the second house of our assets, our creative capabilities, our skills. This place is showing us that we can implement these things at home as well, with the people closest to us. So this is an opportunity to come back to ourselves, come back to our solitude, come back to our families, and find out the deepest part of our belief, the deepest part of ourselves, through these experiences that will unfold all the way through May. Aquarius, you have the Saturn Neptune conjunction in the third house, our daily experiences. Now, when we have this here, it can show that our life itself, our daily workings, or the people that we're connecting with, can give us the opportunity for a spiritual discipline, for structure and connection with ourselves. We have Mars still moving through our first house. And when Mars moves through our first house, it shows that we are taking action. We are moving forward. We are moving in the direction for ourselves. When we think about these two planets, Saturn and Neptune, in the third house, it can show that it is wrapped around the day that we live and the people that we see and the connections that we are creating or that we are already a part of. As a Aquarius rising who is ruled by Saturn, it can show that wherever we find ourselves, there is going to be an opportunity to see ourselves, an opportunity to embody our truth. And this is going to come from the depth of our intuition, the insight. Because we just had a solar eclipse in the first house, like the planting of a seed. This is that seed growing and catalyzing and moving forward. And soon as time goes on, as we move through, like I said at the beginning of the video, Uranus will move into the fifth house. And it will be about our creativity. So the creativity starts now. The passion begins now in our experience. Pisces rising experiences Saturn and Neptune in the second house, creating structure around our skills or our financial well-being. Neptune here has potential to create a fog or a veil, allowing us to believe something else. But since these two planets are conjoining to one another, maybe it's removing that veil, giving us an opportunity to learn something that we weren't necessarily seeing at first. With the Saturn that rules over our 12th house, of hidden enemies or subconscious. It can show that through our skills that we've gained, through the things that we've been learning, or even maybe through community, we are able to create a foundational structure around our finances or around the skills that we've been cultivating in order to share these things. As a Pisces rising that had Neptune moving through your first house for 14 years, it's now moving through the second house, and we get to see the change, see the transformation, and we can slow down for a moment and see what direction feels best. As Mars moves through the 12th house, maybe it still feels like we don't know which way to go. And that's going to come through taking those moments, having that spiritual practice, and finding those tools that we've already created and using them for ourselves so that way we can know what direction we need to move in. That's going to bring these horoscopes to an end. Remember, friends, Saturn and Neptune is only the beginning. These planets are going to be conjoined and remaining within close proximity within a 3-degree orb all the way until nearing the end of May. And even as they separate, they still will be expressing themselves through that natural Aries energy. This is a new experience for us. So it's an opportunity to slow down and be mindful of what's going on. So that way we can get the best out of this one. We can squeeze the juice out of this one. We can wring that rag dry. So thanks for being here, friends. Remember to like the video. Remember to subscribe if you like getting this information from here. My name's Casey. Once again, this is Aligned Astrology. Until the next time.